Awesome. Hello, my friend. How are you? I hope you're having an outstanding day. This is Heather. This is the Back to Me podcast, and this is the Outstanding Fabulous Friday edition, which means I get an outstanding, fabulous Friday celebrity to come and chat with me. And today it is the one and only Paula Cowan. And your company's name is just your name, right? I didn't
Correct.
forget something there. Okay. So it's like
Was it self-employment?
from Paula Cowan. Yay. And Paula, welcome. So good to see you.
Thank you. Thank you for having
So
me.
yeah, absolutely. So I always like to start with finding out so you are a coach, career strategy coach, correct? Is what
I use the term career transition strategist, who also
transition
does
strategist.
job search coaching. Coaching's an aspect of what I do, but it's not my official title. But
Right. I knew strategy was in there somewhere.
Mhm.
And I'm always curious as how did you get into that? Like what drew you to that?
I'm on my second venture at self-employment. I burned out from the previous one and knew I couldn't go back to corporate. So I started my career in human resources. And I never kind of went in starts and stops. I never really thrived at that, but I was in recruitment, IT recruitment for a while. So I read resumes for a living.
Wow.
And when I lost my job in HR, I did a 12 to 15 year stint I still had some part-time clients as a behavior therapist for autistic children. And that's physically and mentally demanding. So I eventually burned out from doing that.
Right.
And said, okay, what do I do now? And it's like, I was always the one that would do my friends' resumes. And I still remembered from the other side of the desk what got my attention and my colleagues' attention. It's like, all right, well, let's see if I can make some money off doing resumes. And I wasn't even taking it seriously. I was putting up ads on Kijiji and just like, people give me money for this.
Right.
So, I mean, to start off, I'd meet someone at a food court or at Starbucks. And I mean, if it was a customer service resume, I could churn it out in, say, an hour and 90 minutes, and we'd make the exchange and go on our way. And then as the resumes got more complex, I realized I was giving out a lot of advice while I was meeting someone and plunking away at this. So I had to change the title and expand my services. And here we are.
Wow. That's quite a bit. I compare it to, I couldn't go back to corporate either. So I totally get you there.
Mm-hmm.
And it's interesting, your comment that what people are going to pay me for this. But what I find, because I've had that thought pass through my head sometimes for some of the things that I do, is the things that we do really well and are easy for us aren't easy for everyone, right?
Exactly.
And
Mm-hmm.
if it seems too easy, we think, oh, this can't be right. This is too easy. It should be harder than this. But I think that the things getting in our own way. We like to make our lives complicated, don't we?
Well, it's also easier to spot errors on someone else's work, regardless of what it is, whether it's a resume or an article or whatever else. I'm constantly reminded of that, but I learned that very early in my work life when I worked at one of the banks on the teller line, and all of the smart supervisors I had at the end of the day when we had to sum up our credits and debits, all of the smart supervisors said trade work with the person beside you because it was done a lot quicker. You could spot their errors and they would spot mine, and we were out of there just so much faster. And then the not so on the ball supervisors had us do our own, and of course problems.
And then you'd be there all night. I mean, my first career, I can't remember if we had this conversation. My first career, I was a CPA, chartered accountant, and for 15 years. And I could spend hours looking for like $100. It's like, why am I spending all this time? Probably if I had been smarter, I would have had somebody else to add it up for me.
Mm-hmm.
But it is true. When you're too deep in your own stuff, you can't see what you can't see, right?
Exactly.
Whether it's your resume or your writing, or it's hard to step back and get some perspective on it.
Exactly. Yeah. It's not a skill people have unless they're unless they're career contractors. Then they always have to reevaluate that. And even then they can miss a few things and
right. Yeah.
Need a fresh set of eyes.
How did you get into the middle job there, the autistic children one?
My brother's autistic. I know the mindset. I had kind of reached a career conundrum when I lost my job in HR. I was on EI for a year, and I knew I didn't want anything to do with HR anymore. I'd completely stopped reading anything that had to do with it, and EI was running out. It's like, all right, what do I do? So I had to go see a career counselor, and he had me come up with 8 to 12 stories where I came up, really felt a sense of accomplishment. And when I did them, none of them had anything to do with HR. They had to do with working with little kids as a babysitter, a camp counselor, doing stuff with my brother. And so, I mean, I'd never thought of combining the two, the special needs and working with little kids. And he'd suggested, well, try working with special needs children. And so I pursued the work with autistic kids because I already knew how they think and what
Right.
didn't come in with a lot of assumptions. And so, I mean, there were ups and downs in that field. And of course, when you're going into people's homes, there's always a set of, could probably write a separate book on that, but
Right.
yeah, I mean, I loved working with the kids. I miss that aspect of it, but everything else, I mean, the logistics, any program in receipt of provincial funding, there's like hoops that have to be jumped through a few times a year, which I don't miss at all. Bureaucracy. And I mean, and sometimes dealing with parents' expectations, they may or may not be realistic or whatever else. So, I mean, it's official therapist for the child, unofficial therapist for the parents. And
Right.
it's, yeah, it could get
And
overwhelming.
yeah.
It's draining. Yeah.
Yeah, I know that it's quite draining. My sister-in-law worked until just recently for quite a while in the school system as a classroom aide for autistic kids. And I know she loved, same as you, she loved working with the kids. They were great, but it's challenging.
Yeah.
So challenging and they're all individual in the way they think and work and commonalities. But right, yeah. I guess it is hard when you're trying to decide what you want. I always, tongue in cheek, what do you want to be when you grow up, right? So you don't always, it's not always, some people have a very clear, like, this is what I'm going to do, and they go that way and off they go. But I
If
find
it's the conventional route, they're getting correct information. If you're kind of a little offshoot, oftentimes you're not being given accurate information, or you're not talking to the right people. And so
right,
that's one of the things I work on with my clients is like, okay, I don't just tell them who to talk to. I tell them who to stop listening to.
right. So what's an
So, I
example
mean,
of that? I've never heard that referred to. So do you have can you share an example of what that sounds like? Or
well, I mean, just if family members that maybe have a very limited definition of success, like doctor, lawyer, or whatever, or don't want them to quit their government job or whatever else. I mean, I've had to tell some of my clients, like, stop giving that family member updates until you're in your new job. I mean, they're
right,
just making you crazy. They're making you second guess when really they haven't done what you're trying to do. So how could they possibly help? Or they're not giving you the advice.
did you have people telling you were crazy?
We're
When
giving
you
them
were
that advice?
no, like when you were doing your transitions. I'm just saying.
I actually no, because I mean, it was quite obvious that I wasn't thriving in the field, and in hindsight, I think it was quite obvious I really wasn't happy there.
right,
So, and I mean, I had done. I'm in Generation X. If you weren't in IT, I mean, it was contract work aplenty, but a lot of the full time jobs that would have been an option for maybe people who graduated 5 years before me had pretty much dried up. So.
right,
Yeah, so it's not like I had golden handcuffs on, whereas I would have been told I was crazy if I had a government job that I walked away from, but
right.
that wasn't the case.
I only ask because when I left corporate, I was an executive, and I told my people at the time that I was quitting and that I was leaving. And one of my friends at the time, I mean, we're not friends any longer, took me out to lunch because they wanted to talk to me, and they were prepared to take me to CAMH, which for the people who aren't in Toronto, that's the mental health facility. They were going to take me
Wow.
straight there because they thought I'd lost my mind. It's like, it's just a job.
Wow.
Right? So that's why I was
White
asking you.
suit sitting at the table. Oh.
And I'd say it's for for people who haven't made those giant leaps, it can, or have their, I guess they've lived their whole lives within the, you're supposed to do this stream. It can seem insane from the outside to make those giant changes, right?
Can also upset them if they had to squash their thing. It's like, well, why do you get to do it and I didn't? And like, fit in the
True.
box I want to put you in. So did you
So
have to go to the bathroom and basically take your purse and go out the back door from lunch?
all right. Not quite. I convinced him that I was not insane somehow. Plus, I had my own car keys. It's
Yeah,
like, you can't
good,
stop
good.
me. You can't stop me. You didn't drive me here. I am the master of my domain. But really, it does actually really disrupt everyone around you as well when you make those big changes. But you can't let that stop you if
Mhm,
you need to make that change, right? If you need to do what's true for you,
mhm,
right?
exactly.
And it is a hard transition to make. Like, it's amazing that you actually combined that kind of like coaching kind of aspect with it, with the resume writing, because it's like people will have somewhere to turn to and go, oh my God, I'm going insane. You can like talk them off the ledge kind of thing, right?
Yeah,
So
yeah.
I guess it's like way expanded from just writing people resumes on off of Kijiji. It's
Oh yeah, I mean, I do job search strategy and I help them work through their career impasse or whatever. And
Is there a group that you tend to work, you find gravitates to it the most, or?
over COVID, I was getting approached by a lot of former educators. So I mean, that makes sense. Teaching, there's a lot of burnout. But
Yeah,
other
especially
than
the
that,
last 2
I wouldn't
years.
say I've overly specialized. But yeah, but yeah, I seen that seems to be what the niche is. They've had some kind of educational in the education system, be it public or private. But
And I mean, it's it's too bad that they've been under such strain even before the last 2 years came along. I think about, how impactful a good teacher can be, or even a bad teacher can be on the
mhm,
trajectory for a young person, and that that just has so much of a domino effect down through everything, society, their life, their families' lives.
mhm,
And it's so challenging to know what to do to help them, I
mhm,
find, right?
exactly.
And with them exiting, I mean, yes, thank you for helping them, but I wish they would stay. The good
Mhm.
ones, it's usually the good ones that leave, right?
Yeah, exactly. Because well, the good ones don't thrive under the constraints. I mean, you
Right,
need space for creativity to flow and for the new ideas to come in. Okay, this is how to get through to that kid. But
right,
dumb rules, that's just not going to happen.
right. Oh my
Yeah.
gosh, true. I hope, are they finding a way to express their teacherness? Is that a word?
There is, I mean, it's great foundation for other things, whether, I mean, corporate trainer or otherwise, or, yeah.
Grown-ups,
Yeah.
right? Grown-ups need
Not as
training too,
cute, but
right? Theoretically, they're grown-ups.
yeah. That's,
And we were just commenting because I guess there's been a lot of people going into the self-employed space quite a bit, right? There seems to be, I find maybe it's just the feeds, the information, because I know that all the websites you go on now are curated. They know all about you. Everyone seems to be going into the solopreneur, contractor kind of space instead of a traditional job space over the last few years. And we were just talking about, you still need that social contact
yeah.
of around the water cooler. And how do we find that?
That's the
I
co-working spaces. Yeah.
Co-working
Mhm.
spaces.
Yeah.
And I belong to a networking group that is women professionals, and we were having a conversation on Wednesday, I think it was Wednesday this week, and we were talking about how everybody's been going to all these Zoom meetings for all this time, but meeting in person is just that extra little cherry on top. Zoom
Exactly.
meetings are okay, but
Mhm.
meeting someone live and in person is so different. And I guess, what do you use to help support you besides your co-working space? Do you have anything that helps you kind of keep yourself in your good headspace, not holding yourself back? Maybe you don't hold yourself back. How do you
Oh no, I
stop
do, but it's
how do you stop holding yourself back?
um, usually I over the past few years I've learned to see things in terms of energy blockages. So it's like, okay, something needs to move. How do I move it? Or what's the best way for me to move it? I try to keep a decent meditation schedule and meditate almost every day. I slip up, but yeah, try to keep that a few times a week, and yeah, just basically keep a flow of energy going, and
Right.
so nothing
Yeah,
gets stagnant.
there's a lot of um, benefits to giving your headspace some quiet time, right?
Mhm.
So I'm on top of all the other things that I do. I've been a meditation well, I've been a yoga teacher for 18 years, and I've been a meditation teacher for, I can't remember, less than 18 years, slightly
Mhm.
less than 18 years. But if definitely, I totally recommend for people. There's no right or there's no wrong way to do it. It's just like, find yourself a little quiet time, a little
Mhm.
quiet space, right? If you like apps and you like to keep score, use one of the apps
Mhm.
because it'll give you like, Yahoo, congratulations, you did 10 days in a row. I use something called Insight Timer, and it's like, here's another star for doing 10 days in a row. You've done this many days in a row. And it gives you like little shout outs.
Mhm.
And because I know some people use the Calm app. It's like we're gamifying meditation, which is
Exactly.
to
And
me
everything else.
yeah, which is to me a little crazy. We have to gamify everything, even French. I'm learning French. I use Duolingo. It's totally
Oh, I have
gamified,
that. Yeah.
right? So it's so funny. It's like I'm competing with people I don't know to be number one this week in how many my score on Duolingo. I'm like, I'm just trying to learn French. How come I have to compete with these people?
Well, they're onto something because my very first French teacher in a Toronto school board in the 70s, they didn't start teaching kids French until grade 4. And so my grade 4 teacher, he gamified everything. So I still remember far more from his class than any French instruction I had after that, because he'd have someone keep a score and pit the boys against the girls for who could guess the word, or he'd put like pictures of like a car, a banana, or whatever all over the classroom, and then put boy and a girl up front. And he would say the word in French, and you had to crawl over people, climb over desks to get the picture of the car and say, "I do not tolerant."
Probably not allowed to do that anymore.
I don't know.
Right.
It was fun, and yeah, so it's a great way to learn stuff, and yeah, that's the reason I remember a lot more.
Little kids, right? You got to
Yeah.
make it fun. I
Hmm.
guess you got to make it fun for grown-ups too. Somehow there has to be a reward from
Oh,
it
exactly.
other than just the thing itself.
Hmm.
That's interesting. Because I remember, um, I remember the 70s. Um, I can't remember what grade we started French, but it could have been grade 4, I guess. And
In Toronto, it was grade 4. Yeah, if you're elsewhere,
I was only 4 hours east of here. So
okay.
yeah, same provincial school board. Uh, but yeah, all I remember about French was my teacher was crazy. Yeah. And I remember, I think she was like from France, French.
Oh
And
no.
I remember, and I still remember to this day, she would always say, English is such a ridiculous language. You use so many words to say nothing. And I, now when I'm learning French, I'm like, you use a lot of stupid words too. Like, it's not, you don't put it all on us. You have too many words in some of your sentences too.
Oh boy.
Not that I don't enjoy learning French, but she didn't make it fun.
No. Oh, that's
And
funny.
what's even funnier is what I remember, my other French teacher that I remember in high school was Scottish. So I was learning French with a Scottish accent.
Oh no.
So funny. That would probably, if I had kept on, that would have been the strangest accent of all time, right?
Yeah,
So good.
what you needed was a trip to Quebec City when you had that teacher, and all of you be speaking with a Scottish accent.
they probably would have laughed us out of the park. But we digress to French. But the things that are holding us back, oh my gosh, we do get in our way a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And I found so, and maybe you have a strategy that you help people with. I find quite often the thing that I'm trying to help people with is keeping their promises to themselves. So, and I use as an example, so, you decide that you're going to do, we always come up with things, something they're going to work on for till I speak with them again. And like book it in your calendar, schedule your time where you're going to work. Maybe it's their resume for you. When are you going to do this X? And then because they're not used to maybe not having a boss in place who's going to say, hey, did you do that assignment? It slides and it slides and it slides.
Mhm.
And they don't do it when they've scheduled it. They're like, oh, that's okay. I'll do it tomorrow. It's like going to the gym.
Yeah.
Oh, I'll do it tomorrow. I'll do it later today. I'll do it here. And then I think that sets up maybe on a subconscious level. It's like, well, I never follow through for myself. So why even bother? And then
Mhm.
they just continue that spiral. So is there a way that you help people? I guess you must have encountered it. I mean, I think every coach encounters it at some point, but do you have strategies that you help people figure that out, or other than you're going to call them and say, did you do it?
Well, I give an action list if I'm doing job search strategy, or later on in my career program, I'll give them an action list, and I know not to make it too long, but
Right.
and just depending on the person, how much of it they get through. But it's usually that's when their limitations come out. If there's a certain thing that they're really struggling with, and like, okay, or it keeps getting put on the back burner, is like, oh, I'll usually probe and say, okay, what's the issue with that? What's going on? And oftentimes it could be a lack of confidence, or just self-doubt that keeps coming through, or maybe it's not a direction they really want to go in, and so sometimes that's a
So true.
or it's not what it turns out it's not what they thought it was. And
Right. I can remember a client that I spoke with at one point who had had a coach previously. And he said to me, I said, oh, he was trying to start a business, and he had a list of like 30 things that he was supposed to do from this previous coach. And he said, I just haven't done it. And I think I like how you said, not too many things on the list. One, I think the list was too overwhelming for him.
yeah.
Didn't just paralyzed with overwhelm because he didn't know where to start. But also, it wasn't actually what he wanted to do,
Mhm.
which I found so. Maybe he didn't recognize it at the time. I'm sure the coach was great, but when I started asking questions, trying to dive into why he didn't even start on the list, besides the fact there was too many things, the business that he had this big list for wasn't what he wanted to do.
Mhm.
And I mean, as coaches, we can't decide for people what they want to do, right? We just try to
Mhm.
help. Once you figure out what you want, we try to help them kind of
Yeah.
get a strategy and get moving. And a little bit to the client. I mean, if you're allowed to push back, right? I say, that's too much.
Mhm.
We're not your boss. That's
Yeah.
too much. Let's back it up. Let's back up the bus and try this over again.
Yeah. And that's the key, is to remember to check in with your client. Listen, how are you doing? Did I give you too much, or
Right.
is it overwhelming? Is anything vague or unclear, or
Yeah. Or do you
Mhm.
know where to start? Sometimes is a good
Yeah.
question. Do you know
Or
how
even
to
just say,
start?
all right, if you're overwhelmed now, pick 3 to 5 things out of that, and
Right.
see where they take you.
Sometimes it's just pick one.
Mhm.
Because I find it's like, when you say you go floss one tooth. Well, when you start, you're like, well, I might as well keep
Mhm.
going, right? So I'll just floss one tooth. No, I guess I could do two teeth, and then you just keep going and down through your list. But it is true. I have a sign that hangs up behind my desk to remind even me. It says you are 100% responsible for making this happen.
Mhm.
This can be anything. And for some people, I guess even that's overwhelming if they've never had to step into that role in the past.
They're afraid of making a mistake. And it's that happens with, of course, that's going to happen with entrepreneurship. And I mean, I came back to Toronto in 2015, and of all the self-employed or entrepreneurs that I met at that time, I mean, almost all of them have had to pivot in some way since then. So it's a fact of life. You do what you can until you know better, and then
right. And we are afraid of making mistakes, like even the smallest ones, even
Uh-oh, you're frozen. Shit.
oh my God.
Oh, there we go.
Oh my Lord. My computer suddenly turned off. Like,
oh, that's not good.
It's plugged in. Everything's plugged in. I was like, what the hell? So I'll edit that. I'll edit all that out. Did you stay in the room? Were you still in the room when I was gone?
Yeah. Yeah. You froze, and then it's you just went bye-bye.
Oh my God, that was insane. I sent you an email from my phone going, oh my God, my computer crashed. All right.
Yeah,
well,
I just replied to it. But
that's so good that it kept the room open because it kept the recording going. And I'll just cut out the weirdness in the center.
Yeah. Sounds good.
What were we talking about now? I don't even know. Let me check my microphone setting. Making mistakes. Yes. Okay. All right. Okay. I closed a whole bunch of things just so that it might not crash again. Like I said, this week, I don't know, all of my tech stuff has started to totally lose its mind. So, yes, mistakes. People are afraid of making mistakes. And what I try to help people, because I went through the same thing. I mean, I started my coaching career in 2018, but it was like, I felt like, and I mean, imposter syndrome is another, I think, incarnation of the afraid of making mistakes. It's like, oh, I nobody, people will know I'm no good. So it's just like, I was like, in my mind, I was just pretending to coach people, if that makes sense. Oh yeah. You just say, yeah, I'm a coach. And then you run away. But I think you got to step into it and be okay. And maybe it was somehow when we're growing up, you see that people who make mistakes get into trouble. But really, I read this article recently from a neurologist's perspective is your brain maybe can't is too strong a word. You learn by making mistakes.
Yeah.
So if you don't make a mistake, well, you're not going to learn anything new, right?
Mhm.
And grown-ups never give themselves any credit for trying to learn new things. We always want to know everything immediately.
Imagine
I'm
telling a kid they can't make mistakes. I mean, that's their whole learning spiel.
and kids don't care, right?
Mhm.
They I don't know when the age flips over that suddenly they, you know, don't want to make mistakes anymore. And I guess it'll probably different for every kid. Are
Well,
they
if
in,
they live with some like a critical parent or a critical teacher, that's it could start earlier. But yeah.
right? Yeah, which is too bad because
Mhm.
making mistakes is the best.
Yeah.
I've actually started to embrace it because as we've learned just a moment ago, when I will say when the whole system crashed and I had to turn it back on, I make mistakes every day,
Mhm.
and I've exercised my my mistake muscles to be okay with it. I always think some, the use it or lose it kind of analogy of many things in life. If you don't exercise making mistakes, then how can you get good at it?
Mhm.
Because you just make better mistakes after a while, right? It's
Oh,
like
yeah.
everything is my coach. Because, of course, if I'm going to coach people, I'm going to have a coach just to say, yes, I have a coach and he helps me over my stuff so I can help you over your stuff. He always says, it's no mistakes, just feedback. So
Exactly.
as you
So
screw
this is a
something up,
teachable moment.
right, right,
Like the typical grade one teacher.
right. Oh my gosh,
What
yes.
have we learned from this?
Grade one, what a great grade. Yes. When
I had a
life
good
had no
teacher for grade
pressure.
one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like just yeah, this didn't work. Instead of a mistake, we should just relabel it. It's like this didn't work the way we thought it would. What would we adjust? Would we do it again, or would change it? Would we tweak something? Try it again. Tweak and try. Tweak and try.
Mhm.
I think about presentations. So when at one point I actually worked for Nova Scotia Power for a while when I lived in Halifax, and I was in the finance department, and we were going out into the field and teaching. We had developed this course to teach department heads to do budgeting, like totally dialed down, just something to help them kind of through the process instead of, accountants standing up on high saying, you got to do this. We wanted them to be able to make their decisions. So we were traveling around the whole province to all these departments delivering these courses. And every single time we taught it, we went, oh, that kind of worked. This didn't work. How do we adjust it so they understand it easier? So by the end, I mean, it's interesting. You have to go through that process of it not being perfect multiple times. But by the end, we're like, wow, this is awesome. And we kind of had tweaked it to this really great course. I was like, shoot, we should go deliver it all over again.
Mhm.
Right. This was before we had all Zooms and we could deliver stuff online. This was
Yeah.
way back in the 90s. I don't even think I had a cell phone. Nope, didn't have a cell phone until I
Mhm.
moved to Toronto. So, okay, kids, there used to be a time back in the day when
Yeah,
we didn't
exactly.
have cell phones. Not to blow your minds or anything, but
I love watching those videos of millennials trying to use a dial phone.
oh
Some of the
no,
funniest stuff I've seen.
right? We're not laughing at you guys. Come on, it's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah.
There's stuff I couldn't milk a cow. I'm sure some old folk would laugh at me trying to milk a cow, but
Mhm.
yeah, now we're so connected. Which I see so many good things come out of it, so many less than good things, but we just keep on try like so my goal in my coaching business is to try yes, I help kind of like you with these concrete like we're going to do this, we're going to do this like but the overarching um uh goal isn't the right word. The overarching premise of why I coach is to try and help people be better, right?
Mhm.
The more I can help people be better at whatever they want to be better at, then they can go out and be better and help somebody else be better and pay it forward.
Mhm.
So I think coaches innately just want to help people. You can see people struggling. You're like, I can help you. And we all have the things that we are, I guess, can help the most with. So I know when I've in the past, back when I was still in corporate and changing jobs, at one point, one of my friends who worked for a bank said, "We call you transient," because I had changed jobs so many times as an accountant. He said, "Yeah, we call your type transient." But I needed I used a one of those recruiting type firms at the
Okay.
time. And
Mhm.
I needed that because I'm like, I don't know how to do a resume in a way that will get me a job.
Mhm.
And so they were helping me so that I could go and help a company and I can pay it forward and
Yeah,
keep
so
going.
they knew you were a good candidate, that eventually, if packaged the right way, they would get their commission.
Do
So,
you ever have people that you don't help think
um,
of good
eh,
candidates or
I have people that get me confused with a recruiter.
uh,
So, or they want me to basically do the job hunting for them, and it's like,
right.
"No, I don't do that." And I oftentimes have to explain that the difference between people like me and a recruiter is a recruiter doesn't work for you. I mean, they do, as in your case, because they saw you were a valuable candidate, so they put the time in to make sure that the candidate saw you that way. But for other people that approach them, I mean, they generally don't have the time to spend with you to build up your resume because they are so beholden to the client who's paying their bill and their commission.
Yeah, I
And
guess it's like the company is paying the bill, so they're out there looking actively for what will suit best.
what will suit the company? Yeah,
Right. And in your case, the individual is paying you to help them present themselves in the
to help
best
them
way.
figure out the log jam. I mean, I meet my clients where they are. So, I mean, if
Right.
they're job searching and not getting results, okay, what's going on with that? If they're getting interviews, but then the issue is not their resume. It's doing its job, or my job. I always see things that can be changed, but there's something else going on in their interview process, or maybe they're just not interviewing with the right companies, and they need to tweak their job search and tweak who they're talking to. So it's just, yeah, have a conversation with them. Just, okay, what direction, where do you want to be, and let's figure out what's stopping you from getting there. What are the hurdles that you're currently encountering, and do you even need to deal with them, or is there another pond you should be fishing in?
Right. I
Yeah.
can remember this is true. I encountered this when I had my own yoga studio for a while, and I encountered it when because I went back to school and became a registered massage therapist. And it was funny seeing people so I'm a registered massage therapist or I'm a yoga teacher, and they had this vision of what it would be like to work. I'm going to go work on a cruise ship because I will just be cruising around and having a fabulous time. But the reality of what working in those places was not what they envisioned. So, do you ever find yourself trying to say to to your clients, like, do you really know what this is going to look like on a day-to-day basis? Like the reality of it. Because I've encountered people who have this vision of this is my goal and this is what life is going to look like, but that's not actually what real life looks like in that situation.
Part of my well, checking out a new line of work or a new career direction, that's part of the research process, and to really not necessarily test drive, but really figure out who they need to talk to before they really venture out and say, okay, this is the right career for me.
I like the test drive
Yeah.
kind of visualization and yeah, I guess that doesn't occur to some people that you can actually go out and ask people in those positions, like, what's it really like
Hmm.
on a
Yeah.
day-to-day basis?
Hmm.
And it might sound really cool on the outside. And I know like social media posts, it looks so fabulous. Everything looks fabulous in social media.
Hmm.
Not that I think of accounting, not that a lot of accountants post, hey, look at my fabulous spreadsheet from today. But I never did that. There was no social
Those are
media
my
then.
best clients for resumes because they always know the results.
right?
You'd be shocked how many salespeople I've had come to me, and I'll ask, okay, well, let's talk about the money. Where's the money? Put some numbers up there. And of course, they don't know them. You accountants always know.
Yes, we do always know. So it's only a really small aside of how my accountant brain still works. When I was trying to decide what massage school I would go to, I had a spreadsheet of the school, how long it was going to take, how much it was going to cost, um, their pass rates for the previous 5 years for the provincial regulatory exams. Like I had, and I toured them all, and they all had, scales 1 to 10. So it was a very accountant evaluation of where to go to school to become a massage therapist.
Yeah.
And massage therapy is half science and it's half art, which is so interesting that, I used this logical accountant side of me entirely to make my decision. But it worked. I was on a podcast recently. I don't know if you've encountered Drasko from Up Level Mind.
Don't think so.
He interviews coaches on his podcast about what's holding them back in their business, and his analysis of me was that I had a rigid personality, which I found hilarious, but could be totally true, right? He said the accountant side was still pretty strong in me. I'm like, okay, yeah, I'll buy that for $1. So if you feel adventurous, you can always go and talk to him. His podcast aired on July the 1st. So, yeah, it's like we all have aspects of our personality that trip us up. And like we said right at the very beginning, you can't see it. Like because you're inside of it. I mean, it might show up in your resume writing. It might show up in your letter writing or whatever. But I had an analogy that I heard recently. I think it was on a podcast where you're inside the box of you and the instructions are on the outside of the box, but you can't see them because you're inside the box. So you need someone outside of you to tell you what you're doing to yourself so that you can understand the instruction, your instruction manual, for lack of a better comparison.
Exactly.
I thought that was
I'm an objective third party, if nothing else. And
right. And I mean, I'll have people who will say, well, I just ask my best friend for advice, or I ask my partner, but so many, and kind of like along the lines of who not to talk to when you're trying to make a change. All of those people who are in your inner circle, you might confide in, which is fine, but they will have their own agenda on how they want you to stay.
They're comfortable with the status quo.
So they might not necessarily give you an impartial opinion.
Oh, exactly.
Sadly. Yeah. Hopefully they won't have you committed or anything, but
that's a bit extreme. And
that was a bit extreme.
That's
I still laugh about that one.
But
I don't know if he listens to my podcast at all. I probably haven't talked to him in 17
Was it a relative?
Years. No.
Oh,
it's just a friend. Just a friend.
Interesting.
Yeah. Haven't seen him in probably 17 odd years. So don't know what he does now.
Yeah. But that's a thing they like doing to women. No, you're going against the grain. You must be crazy.
You must be crazy.
Yeah. There was a good meme that was I shared on Facebook a few weeks ago, and whatever Kanye had said at the time, but the meme said, is Kanye getting a conservatorship, or is that just something they do to women? It's like,
yeah. Right. Oh my gosh. So that could go so many, like that rabbit hole of the things going on in the world and women. And yeah, there's a lot happening. So that's why I keep trying to elevate people. Whatever way I can elevate, whoever I can elevate, do good in the world. My friends, just do good in the world. It's a little pay it forward, but it's like what you put out, you should put out what you want to get back, basically, right?
Exactly.
And I would like the world to be a kind and happy and gentle place, really.
Yeah. I did a LinkedIn post, and I started it off with, karma is not a bitch. an excellent accountant. And then I started off with a LinkedIn poll. Did your workplace bully ever get their just desserts? And like the 4 options. So yeah.
Oh my gosh, that's perfect, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes, so true.
Serve you the exact amount of poison in your tea that you've been giving out to other people over here.
Right. And it doesn't always come around at the, directly. So it could come down further down the road, but it does eventually come back to you in some form. Mm-hmm. So true. Yeah. Yeah. My workplace bully got his reward. So
Excellent.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. It's like, I was already gone by then, because I said, I'm out of here. This is ridiculous.
Yeah,
I don't
me
need
too. It was a demotion eventually. And it's me and another a whole whack of other employees, departing employees.
And it's too bad that it takes that for them to go, oh, something's wrong.
Yeah. Finally look at the numbers and say, okay, there's a problem here. And
right. So for people who potentially are looking for, I guess, something new in their lives, or maybe they were, because there has been a lot of downsizing going on, right?
They're not, I mean, the pandemic was great for giving people the downtime because I mean, a lot of employees boiled frog syndrome. So once they're out of the environment, not having to deal with toxic coworkers or managers or abusive customers, the thought of going back would have been like, no, it doesn't have to be this way. And I'm moving on. So it's someone who knows that they're not happy and doesn't want to go back or continue doing what they were doing pre-pandemic.
And then knowing what to do next, whether their next step should be, right?
Yeah,
which is where
oftentimes, that's where I come in. I help them. It's okay. What would you be doing if it didn't matter? If other people's opinions didn't matter? But I mean, the stages I usually say where you'd want to talk to someone like me is if there's been a drastic change in the way you show up at work. Someone who was always punctual is now always late. Always good about getting projects done is now procrastinating, or just their attention to detail is slipped just because the motivation isn't there. They don't want to be there anymore. And watching the clock, or just, dreading seeing any kind of phone call from their coworkers. It's time to consider a new direction and start plotting your escape. And
yeah. And it's okay. Like, part of it is like, it's okay to change jobs.
Our brains change gears every 10 years anyway. I mean, for 100 years, we've been indoctrinated to think that you get the same job for like 20, 30 years. And I mean, that's gone out the window. I mean, I don't know why. I don't know why hiring managers look down their nose at job hoppers still, because like, where the hell can you stay for 20 years now unless you really have a specialized skill? And
everyone is different, but I personally would have lost my mind if I stayed in the same place for that long. The longest I ever stayed in one place was 7 years. Mm-hmm. I'm still shocked that I have taught yoga for 18 years, but I think it's because it's one skill, but it's been all over the place. It's not just in this everyday routine. I can't, I myself, the way my brain is, I could not do that.
Students are ever changing. Yeah. Even if you're teaching the same level or whatever. I mean, one of my friends, she was teaching grade 2 or 3 for several consecutive years. And she goes, I change my curriculum every year, even though it's the same grade, because the students were always different.
And to help her stay fresh as well, right? Mm-hmm. If you end up in courses where it's the same thing every year, you can tell by the way the teacher delivers it, right? Yeah. It's like they're bored, so the students are going to be bored. Yeah, we need mental stimulation. Obviously, that's why we gamify everything. Mental stimulation, and to like what we're doing. So it's interesting. I had a contemplation. I guess companies would never hire you, even though it might be in their best interest to hire you, because happy employees is what they want. But you would be helping people exit, so that's not what they want. No, that wouldn't totally work, would it?
Well, it's if they have to downsize someone, I can,
right,
their next direction, or
and I know that after, like, a lot of corporate changes have been happening, of downsizing, of changing, of all of this. And it's true, because I've talked to a lot of people who have realized I don't want to do this anymore.
Mhm.
They've had that moment to themselves to actually stop and think about it. And the
Entire
best way,
service industry, yeah. I
right?
mean, it's like I don't get paid enough for what they demand of me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
And the best the best way to figure out where to go next is to get some help,
Mhm.
right?
Exactly. You don't know what you don't know.
And I know you do you deal with people just in the GTA, or are you?
All over now. Yeah. I see my clients by Zoom. Before the pandemic, I preferred to meet people in person. I'm over that.
Yeah, we've adjusted,
Yeah.
right? We can meet people
Mhm.
anywhere.
Pretty much.
Yeah,
Mhm.
across the globes. And I guess if they want to talk to you, like the initial is just like give you, I'm posting the links to how to reach you in
My
the
link
show notes.
tree has the link to book a complimentary 15-minute chat with me and see what they need, how I can possibly help. And
Right.
all
And
my social media stuff is on there too. And
awesome. So good. So friends, if you're not happy, or even if you just want to have a conversation, I guess, about what it could look like to switch, should totally reach out to you, right?
exactly.
Yes. Do you have any final words of wisdom for people? Any thought of any parting, like pull the chute, get out? Or
Um, I suppose just an example of how people can get in their own way. I
Mhm.
got an email from a client I had this past year, and I had reached out to her just to see how she was doing. And well, she'd come to me because she was tired of working in project manager jobs, and was really trying to figure out what to start doing. And she came to me for job search strategies, but one of the things I did was have her fix her resume, because in the summary intersection, I was telling her it read like a new grad. So
Oh, really?
anyone only reading that part of her resume would think she couldn't do anything else. But you go through, and even though she had project manager titles or whatever, she was doing program manager or director level work. And so I'm always frequently reminding my clients, like, okay, you're already doing the work, so claim the title and apply for the next level up.
Right.
And yeah, it's like you have a right to apply for that. And the thing is, international companies were seeking her out for her advice, as like, hello, apply for that job.
Oh my gosh, seriously? Yeah.
Yeah. So her reply to that was she had just finished a round of interviews with 2 companies, and she accepted a director level position. So she's getting ready to change cities now. So
Amazing.
yeah,
Success.
she needed
Yay.
to get out of her own way and really be comfortable tooting her own horn. And
Yeah, we've got to learn that
yeah,
more. You are awesome.
so
Everybody listening is
often you're
awesome.
your own worst obstacle, and
100%.
I help you out with that.
Yeah. My friends, you need to stand up and say, hell yes, I am awesome. So thank you so much, Paula.
Thank you.
So interesting to talk to you. So interesting all the things that you've done and how you're helping people. And my friends, if you need help, definitely check the show notes, check how to get a hold of Paula, and yeah, up level yourself, really. Like, go do it. My friends, have an amazing weekend. Take care. I will see you next time.